The Ride Home Rants podcast is brought to you by Reaper Apparel Company. Reaper Apparel offers a casual line of superb fit, finish, and comfort. We design for those who refuse to die slowly and choose to live untamed. For those who aren't afraid to face the dark, for the ones that thrive in it, and for those who can appreciate life through a grim lens. That's Reaper Apparel Company. Go to the link in the description of this episode, use the promo code Mike Bono, and get 10% off. Also, the Ride Home Rants podcast is brought to you by my own personal merch store, the Stupid Should Hurt merch store. I have hats, I have t-shirts, hoodies, coffee mugs, water bottles, notebooks, you name it, I've got it. The description and the link for that will be in the description of this episode. Also, right now, if you use the promo code WELCOME, I will give you 5% off of your first purchase. That's the Stupid Should Hurt merch store. Also, the Ride Home Rants podcast is brought to you by Tactical Brotherhood, all American-made apparel, which helps support the Second Amendment. You can also find all this in the description of this episode with the link, Tactical Brotherhood. Part of every proceed does go to helping veterans, as it is a very good cause. All American-made products made right here in Minnesota. Go and check them out. Use the promo code PATRIOT15 to get 15% off your purchase. Now, let's start the show.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Ride Home Rants podcast. This is, as always, your host, Mike Bono. I got a great and special episode for us today. We're going to be talking about the World Series coming up here in a couple of days here. But first and foremost, the Ride Home Rants podcast is brought to you by Buddy's Beard Care. Buddy's Beard Care provides premium men's grooming products at an affordable price. Products are made in Ohio, and Buddy's Beard Care supports local. The majority of their supplies are from other Ohio-based companies. You can find them on social media at Buddy's Beard Care or online at buddysbeardcare.com. Use the promo code BONO15. He will save you 15%. Also, the Ride Home Rants podcast is brought to you by former guests of the show, Matt Landowski, and Sweet Hands Sports. Elevate your game with Sweet Hands Sports. Our sports gloves are designed for champions, providing ultimate grip and durability. Achieve greatness with every match. Choose Sweet Hands Sports for their winning edge. Grip your victory at sweethandsports.com. Use the promo code BONO10. You're going to save 10% off. These batting gloves, hopefully maybe we'll see some of these in the World Series. Not sure, but these are phenomenal gloves to use. Go check them out. sweethandsports.com. Lastly, it is brought to you by Deemed Fit, clothing apparel company from first responders for first responders to help support mental and physical health with first responders. This is from the first responders who had to work during COVID and everything and all the struggles that they go through. This is a great cause. All the proceeds go to there. Use the promo code Mike Bono. You will save 20%. It's deemedfit.co. That being said, I'm going to introduce my panel of guests here. Guys, it's normal suspects, it seems like, here with the Ride Home Rants and the roundtables. But, guys, I need your name. The answer to these next two questions is, what is the best thing you can cook? And will Bill Belichick be the Cleveland Browns head coach in 2025? So, Tony, we're going to start with you.
Hey, y'all. My name's Tony Bogan, back for another panel for what seems like the 100th time. But I'm happy to be part of the panel. One of the best things I can cook is steak. I like mine well done.
Oh, Tony, you're getting kicked off the show, man. Well done steak.
Well, I can eat it medium well, to be honest with you. I like steak, fries, mushrooms. That's something I like to eat. And as far as will Belichick be the coach of 2025? No.
All right. Fiddy, what about you?
Everybody knows me. I'm Fiddy, the manager of the podcast, sometimes the guest host, and sometimes a guest panelist. Best thing I can cook is anything on the grill. Bill can attest to that. Bill had my steak before on the grill. So steak, chicken, anything like that on the grill. I love grilling. And then I believe Bill Belichick will be the coach in 2025 with free agent off the street quarterback Fiddy Falcone at 39 years old out there slinging it.
I would watch so many more Browns games if that happened, Fiddy, for sure. Next on the list, we got TJ.
Hi, this is TJ Lett. The best thing I can cook, I keep it simple because I really didn't cook a whole lot growing up. So eggs, it's just quick, simple, easy. You can add anything to them, but cook up some eggs and try to keep the calories low in the morning, but do what I can. Will Bill Belichick be the head coach next year? No.
All right, and last but not least, Bill.
Absolutely glad to be back. Bill, as you mentioned, best thing I cook, I'll say just like a classic Sunday red pasta sauce, pasta, meatballs, maybe get some garlic bread, nice little salad involved there. Probably the go-to. And then, man, diehard Browns fan and just a killer season here. I would have said no to the Bill Belichick question up until probably this week, but let's have fun with it. We'll say yes.
All right. Absolutely. Best thing I can cook. I make a mean burger. I'll tell you that right now. Grilling up some burgers. My son always loves it when I make my homemade burgers and everything like that. Get some fries with that, maybe some tater tots, maybe even a little mac and cheese on the side too as well. Can't go wrong with that. And Bill Belichick, you know what? I think it's going to happen. Yeah, I'm going to say yes on that one. We're not going to get into any football. Hopefully we don't get off topic like we did with the NBA show, but it's the Ride Home Rants. You never know what you're going to get. We're going to talk all things World Series here. And Tony, we're going to start with you. Who's the best manager in this series? David Roberts or Aaron Boone?
I will have to say, I can't believe I'm saying this, Aaron Boone. Yeah, I know.
That's a tough one. It's a tough one as a closet Red Sox fan to hear somebody say that, but yeah, it's all right. It's all right.
I don't like the Yankees either, but the way he managed the bullpen, I mean, Dave Roberts has, overmanaged, so I can't believe I'm saying that. But I got to be truthful with this one.
All right. Hey, we appreciate the truth. But TJ, what about you?
So, if it was pure experience, I'd say Dave Roberts, obviously. But Aaron Boone has a better feel for the game. I feel like Dave Roberts can sometimes panic. I feel like Dave Roberts sometimes has so many weapons at his disposal that he doesn't quite know how to use them all. And it seems like he gets brand new toys every single year. But Aaron Boone has gotten his guys to buy into what they're selling and, the hype that they have brought to the table. And they're his big players play. So I think Aaron Boone, just from leaving some guys out there, knowing that they're on a roll, he has a really good feel for the game and a feel for his team. So I think the attitude of the team goes through him. So I'm going to say Aaron Boone on this one.
All right. Bill, what about you?
It can't be Boone. It's Roberts. I'm not a big Aaron Boone guy. I just don't really, in my heart of heart, thinks he's a really good manager. So I'm going to go with, he's got a little lucky through the first few series here. I do agree. He's got the team buy-in, but the experience of Roberts, got the World Series, been there a few times. I think it kind of revert to the mean there, and you get eventually the experience to show out in what I'm thinking is going to be a long series here. So we'll say Roberts, not a big Boone guy at all.
Okay. Fiddy, what about you?
When I think back to when we did the baseball preview season with TJ and Tony, and we're talking about one of the topics was, should Dave Roberts be fired if he doesn't win the World Series? Now, if you're looking at these two guys, Dave Roberts has more managerial experience, and Dave Roberts has won a lot of games. But Dave Roberts, outside of that fake COVID championship, hasn't really won, truly anything meaningful in the postseason. So is Aaron Boone a better manager? No. But is Aaron Boone being a more productive manager? Yes, because Dave Roberts always had talent around him, and that's why the Dodgers have had this success. Aaron Boone has went through trials and tribulations playing in the most stressful environment you can have in the biggest media market in the United States. So right now I'm just going to say it's Aaron Boone because he survived the bad seasons there. Now he's flourishing with a great season.
And I love how we did this on the NBA show. You talking about fake championships in the NBA with the Lakers and the COVID season. Now that's the fake World Series championship. I love that take.
It was fake.
Sure.
They were fake championships. They weren't real. We had people opting out. People were sick. You never played anybody at full strength. Fake championships. COVID wasn't fake. I'm not saying that. The sports championships were fake.
I love it. Fiddy, we're going to stay with you here. Which team needs to win the World Series more, the Dodgers or the Yankees?
It's the Dodgers, because Dave Roberts has to show he's one of the best managers in the game. If you think of best managers in the game right now, you really don't even say Dave Roberts is probably top 3 to top 5. You just don't. You can name a handful of guys that seem to be better or have the experience. I mean, even Francona's back now. I put Francona as a better manager than Dave Roberts. I put Bruce Bochy as a better manager than Dave Roberts. So, I mean, you can make the argument Stephen Vogt or however you say his last name from the Guardians is a better manager because they get more out of less. And Dave Roberts has the best payroll every single year money can buy. So Dave Roberts has everything going on in this series for him that he needs to show relevance to win.
Yeah, for sure. Bill, what about you? Dodgers or Yankees?
I think it's more important to the Yankees. It's New York. It's the Yankees. I think if you look even a few series back, you could have said similar about Aaron Boone. If he doesn't get to the World Series this year, is he fired? So they're both there. I think the Yankees, by their standards, got a little bit of a drought in the World Series here. Kind of been fluttering out in the playoffs. So I'll say the Yankees. I think there's a lot of hope and belief coming off the ALCS win and kind of their dominance, kind of thinking this is their time. So I think it'd be a big, big letdown if they couldn't get it done.
All right, TJ.
This is an ongoing story. Year after year after year, the Dodgers seem to add and add and add and add, and yet they still haven't been able to pull it off in the big way. So this is everything for the Dodgers. And realistically, it's their chance to shake that stigma that they can't win the big game, that they can't get a championship. When you go and sign Shohei Ohtani to a roster that already has multiple MVPs on it, you better win the World Series, or somebody's going to be on the hot seat for it. And Dave Roberts, for every year, he does seem to get through the regular season, but getting into the playoffs and winning the playoffs, that's what these guys get paid to do. And when you have the highest payroll with the best players that really, again, money can buy, you got to get it done. So I think the Dodgers have the pressure here.
All right. Tony, round us out.
Honestly, both teams have equal amount of pressure. They're both big markets and have the best players money can buy, literally. But I would have to say I'm leaning the Yankees because it had been 15 years since they last were in a World Series, let alone having won a World Series. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but those 3, 4, 5 guys, Soto, Stanton, Judge, those guys are some scary dudes, man. And saw that in the ALCS. Each of them hit a home run or came up with a clutch hit. So I'm going to say the Yankees.
Okay. We keep going back to the managers, with these two and their legacy. I think if they want to solidify their legacy, if you think you're a better manager, go to the Pirates and then bring them through the wild card round in the playoffs, and then I will think you're the better manager. That's the test here. Go to Pittsburgh and see if you could bring them back to the playoffs and bring Pittsburgh back to the World Series and relevant again. That's the only way that's going to get done with these two, because the resumes are eerily similar. They both have the best teams money can buy. Go to a team that has no money, and I can't believe I'm saying that with Pittsburgh having no money. Like, used to be the city of champions. Now it's if they get to 500, they're celebrating it as a winning season. Bring them to Pittsburgh, one of the two, and let's see who's the better manager with managing that club. On that note, Fiddy, I can see you have a thought to that. Go. What do you got on that?
No, I was going to say, we talked about this on the NBA show. Baseball is different, right, than most other sports. Basketball, football, hockey, your players elevate your coaches to greatness because of the talent I think baseball is the one sport where the managers elevate the players. And I know TJ's a former baseball coach and baseball guy. You know, I'm not a baseball guy per se, but I think that's the one sport that managers elevate the players. Look at the Guardians, look at, you know, the Marlins when they've had good managers in there, McKean and guys like that. You know, I think that's the one sport. So, yeah, I mean, I think if you put a good manager on a bad ball club, you know, they're going to elevate their play. They're just going to be smart about how they structure things. So you're right. If somebody really wants to prove to be great, go to a bottom feeder. So we'll see truly what Francona can do with the Reds too, because I think he will elevate them very, very quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, that being said, with that and elevating it, you know, Fiddy, which team here in the World Series has the home field advantage, meaning the atmosphere, the fans, the weather, the stadium setup, you know, et cetera?
I think it's the Yankees. Here's why. The Dodgers play in warm weather, right? New York can get very, very cold very fast, and that affects hitting, that affects running, that affects pitching, that affects your flexibility, your mobility. You know, I'm sure TJ can speak of this a little bit more. When it's cold and there's wind whipping through New York, you know, and it's 60 degrees and it feels like 45 and the ball's flying all over the place, you're not running as fast and things like that. New York is a sports crazed city. I think New York gets the advantage though because of the weather. And if it's been pretty warm, you know, all over the map this fall, but if it gets cold, that's going to affect the Dodgers because they're not used to playing in cold weather being on the West Coast. So Yankees on this one.
I'd have to agree with that one. Bill, what about you?
I'm going to go Yankees as well. I think the weather could play a factor in there. I'm not sure what the weather report is showing, but obviously could definitely play a factor there. I mean, both stadiums are going to be rowdy. I think New York just brings a little extra something to it. You got like the bleacher rats or whatever they call them out there, and I feel like everyone in New York's really bought into this thing. So could be a little bit of pressure in the city of New York, coming in on the Dodgers when they're in there. But I think it's pretty close here. But for a couple of the reasons there, we'll go New York with the advantage.
Okay, TJ.
New York, and I'm going strictly with the field dimensions. Their pitchers know how to pitch there, and their hitters know how to hit there. You look at even how Judge played in the ALCS and in the wild card round. The divisional series. He was looking to shoot the ball the other way, so pitchers started trying to get in on him. Well, all year he's been peppering home runs to right center. That's how he's been able to hit. And he's a phenomenal hitter as it is. But you look at a Stanton, Soto can pull the ball. Soto can hit everything. But even so, how their pitchers pitch, they pitch away from how that field plays. And so just by sheer dimensions, I think that there is an advantage with how Yankee Stadium is played, and Yankees can win there more than the Dodgers coming in and be able to beat them at their own game. So I think that the stadium itself is just going to play a huge role. The Yankees getting wins there and then going out and going to LA and, being able to catch a game or two there too.
Gotcha. So, Tony, what about you?
I'll say this, believe it or not, it's actually going to be really warm in New York next week.
I was just looking it up next week. It's going to be like in the 60s and 70s.
70s, almost at the 80s line. So I'd say atmosphere-wise, I'm going to go with New York because LA, not that the Dodgers don't have their share of passionate fans, but LA's like one of those like sports towns you can show up fashionably late to a game, In New York, they're really in it too. They're really in the game from start to finish. And you've got the whole John Sterling, you've got the whole New York by Frank Sinatra after every Yankees win. So I have to say New York just based on atmosphere.
Okay. Yeah. Not mad at any of those answers. I would say, the weather in New York being so, unpredictable this time of the year in the fall, definitely going to play a huge factor there. But Tony, who's built their team to sustain success for the long term? Is it the Dodgers or the Yankees?
I will have to say I'm going to have to say the Dodgers because technically Juan Soto is on a 1-year contract and he could end up going somewhere else for more money. And he did start off in the National League. So I'm going to have to say the Dodgers because you've got Shohei Ohtani, one of the best baseball players in baseball, period. You still got Mookie Betts, who's still in his prime. The Dodgers have a pretty decent farm system, so I'm just going to have to say the LA Dodgers.
All right, TJ, what about you?
The Dodgers are set up for a long term. I believe Shohei, Mookie, and I also believe Will Smith and Yamamoto, they're on deferred contracts. So they're not even spending money right now. They're like $2 million a year contracts right now, and then they get hit in the back end. That's going to allow them to open the door for even more players to come in. But they have a young pitching staff that a lot of them were injured. But when I say young, between 24 and 28, 29, that still have a lot of legs on them if they stay healthy. That can be really dangerous for years to come. And their bullpen has shown to be really, really well. Now, I know bullpens are revolving doors, but they definitely have the players and pieces and the contracts set up for a long-term run. And that's been the motto. But that's also why Dave Roberts is on the hot seat, because he has long-term contracts in the same players, and he's not mixing the bag up. So why isn't he getting these guys to win year after year after year? So, but yeah, definitely the Dodgers in the long term.
Okay, just keep Will away from Chris Rock.
Absolutely, for sure. But Stoy, what about you?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with the Dodgers. I mean, they've gone where they are with such the injuries to the pitchers. Multiple of their front end starters out, made a run already at the World Series with out kind of, two of their top pitchers in there, not to mention Shohei maybe coming back and pitching in the future as well. Obviously, that's one of the best arms around. So that combined with obviously the contract deals, I do think Soto will be back in New York, whether that's with the Yankees or Mets, we'll find out. But I do think the Dodgers got the contracts, got the injuries now that coming back could obviously just be a really big, I'd say, dynasty here going forward. But we'll see if they get it figured out.
Yeah, the whole Shohei thing. Do you even bring him back to pitch? I mean, he's proven a DH that he can hit, 50 and 50 season, 50 home runs, over 50 home runs, over 50 stolen bases. Like, the dude's just an animal. Like, he's an absolute animal. Could you imagine if he was pitching and producing those kind of numbers as well, at the plate while shutting people down? Like, it's insane to see what this kid's ceiling is, because he's still young. He's in his 20s. Like, he's got so much more to go. I didn't think he was even going to play after the Tommy John surgery. And then, being able to DH through that recovery is just phenomenal. But Fiddy, what about you? Long-term success?
I'm actually going to go against the grain here. I'm going to say the Yankees, because here's why. In professional sports, when you are super successful like the Dodgers have been, without winning winning the one World Series, but eventually people do want paid. People's egos get in the way. You've seen that with, guys in the NBA. You've seen that now with the 49ers in the NFL. And also injuries will pile up, right? The one bad thing about winning and playing long seasons is you don't have an off season. And that will eventually catch up to you, because if you're playing in October and November every year and spring training is starting in February, you have a very, very short time frame to turn around. So I think it's the Yankees, because they don't have the wear and tear on them like the Dodgers do. And eventually all those Dodgers guys, you're in LA, you're in the bright lights, people notice you. Eventually, the sports come second, third, fourth behind commercials, money, movies, the glamour and glitz of like your success, So I think it's the Yankees, because the Dodgers eventually are just going to, I think, fall off this cliff, because everything else is going to get in the way, where the Yankees are hungry and in the, I guess, rebirth of the old days with them.
Yeah, it's a valid point. I mean, I can't argue with any of the points really made. I'm interested to see where both these teams go. Fiddy, but out of these two teams, who's more likely to return next year?
If I'm looking at who's more likely to return, If the Yankees win the World Series, it'll be them. But looking at it right now, I'm going to say it's probably the Dodgers. They probably have but their window's closing because of all the things I just named. So regardless if they win or not, I think the Dodgers will be there. I think the AL's way better than the NL. So the Yankees might have a harder time getting back. So I'll go with the Dodgers right now.
Okay. Stoy.
For all the reasons I was kind of saying for the last question, I say Dodgers. I think can get healthy into next year. Injuries unpredictable, but they can kind of stay healthy. I think they got obviously the talent and get the pitching back into next year. We'll say them still.
Okay. TJ.
The Dodgers' problem has never been talent. The Dodgers' problem has never been the roster. It's never been anything like that. They should, on paper, make it every single year until somebody puts together a more formidable team, a more formidable offense, defense, pitching. But nobody has. And unfortunately, I don't think anybody really is trying to play that game with them anymore. The Padres are trying, but you're seeing what happens when the Padres run in, and when the Padres at their best and the Dodgers at their best, Dodgers are winning. It's just how they are on paper. But other teams you're kind of seeing in the NL, just like, okay, you think Colorado's going to go start spending money? No. You think they're kind of just hoping that, hey, if we sneak in through a wild card and go on a run, that's how we're going to beat the Dodgers. No team is aggressively going after and saying, hey, give us the Dodgers. We'll play them in the first round happily. The Mets, I think, are okay. But after that, you have a bunch of teams just kind of hoping to get to the playoffs. In the AL, you have a lot of young teams, a lot of up-and-coming superstars from Baltimore to KC. I think the Guardians were a really big surprise this year. You still have Texas, who's still really good. You have Seattle. You have all these other teams in the AL that really are, budding, and they're going to be on a collision course for the next few years. So I still think the Dodgers are going to, make it back consistently over the next few years.
Okay. Tony, what about you?
I'm going to say the Yankees. I'm going against the Tide because here's the evidence I have to present. The Dodgers won 111 games 2 years ago. That got them a first-round exit out of the postseason. They won 106. That got them a sweep at the hands of an 84-win team in the Diamondbacks. And for the past few years, until this year, the expanded playoff has favored the wild card teams. The Mets pushed the Dodgers to 6 this year. D-backs went to the World Series. I believe the Padres got past the Mets and went to the NLCS. The NL is going to be tough because you've got the Padres that are going to bounce back. Arizona won more games than they did last season and still didn't make the playoffs. And you have 6 teams making it. So I got to say that the NL's too top heavy because Atlanta will be back. If Acuna can be healthy, Atlanta will be back. The Mets are going to be hungry for more. I believe the Giants finished around 500, so we could see a surprise contender, emerge from the pack. So I'm going to have to say the Yankees will have the best chance of returning.
Okay. With the Dodgers' first round exit last year, I think there was a critical part that I believe, I'm not 100% on this, but where's Clayton Kershaw been in the playoffs?
Injured.
Injured. We'll put that in quotes. He's always crumbled in the playoffs, in the postseason. He's phenomenal in the regular season, just lighting people up. But sometimes when the lights get a little bit brighter and the stage gets a little bit bigger, Clayton Kershaw seems to kind of cower away, and he's not himself. He just can't get it done. He hasn't been in there, and the Dodgers are back in the World Series. And
yeah.
I'm just saying, might be a coincidence. I don't know. Read into that what you will, that he kind of, all of a sudden he was injured coming into the playoffs. But leading up to this question here, and with all those setup questions for this, Tony, who wins this series and in how many games?
This is honestly going to be a tough one because whoever I pick, the opposite team's probably going to end up winning. So I'm going to go with the LA Dodgers in 7 games. It's going to be one of those long series, those long drag them out. Each punch gets countered by a counter punch. great games that'll have you on the edge of your seat till 11, 12 at night. So I say it'll be a 7-game series.
Okay. TJ.
This series is going to mirror what the Dodgers just did in the Mets series. So it's going to be, you're going to have a couple of blowout games just to kind of establish dominance from both sides. And then you're going to have, your extra inning game mixed in there. And then the last 3 are probably going to be barn burners that, they want people to talk about, for forever. But I got the Dodgers here because of just what Shohei Ohtani brings to the Dodgers. I think that baseball wanted him in the World Series. Baseball really needed him in the World Series. You are going to highlight the best player that baseball has seen in 100 years. And I think that it's going to come down to the things that he does, whether it's a stolen base, whether it's a walk that they have to intentionally walk to get to Mookie Betts or whatever it is. Shohei's going to leave his imprint, and that's why the Dodgers are going to take it in 7.
Okay. Bill.
I'm going back and forth on this one. I will say when I got asked to join the show, it was Guardians still in the series, and I was hoping it was going to be them here, but committed to it. I showed up anyways, and I think up until just maybe a couple hours ago, I was thinking about coming on the show. I was leaning Dodgers, but I just think the lack of pitching from the Dodgers and lack of starting pitching, 2 slugger lineups. I think you just have a little bit more if you get Cole and Rodon kind of pitching well. I just don't really trust the arms in LA. And in a long series, I'll say in 7 games, Yankees kind of get to the bullpen and get it done and take the series.
All right. Fiddy, round us out on this question here.
I'm going to say the Yankees in 6, but maybe we'll see a little bit of like some fireworks in there. We'll see some excitement. Maybe we'll see a little bit of like, I don't know, the movie Major League mixed in there with like The Natural with Robert Redford and like, I don't know, maybe the Bad News Bears at the same time. So combination of all that, Yankees in 6.
Right. Can't argue with those 2 movies. They're either Bad News Bears or Major League, 2 of my favorite baseball movies of all time.
You can't, if you've never seen The Natural, you got to watch The Natural with Robert Redford.
Yeah.
Great baseball movie. Very far-fetched and fake, but awesome movie. Very underrated actor. I know this ain't the movie show. Very underrated actor, though, with Robert Redford.
Absolutely. My pick for this series, I've been flip-flopping on this since I heard about it, but I'm going to go Dodgers in 7. I think they squeak it out in 7 games. This is definitely going to be a 7-game series. I think Shohei does enough with Mookie Betts behind him. Like they were saying, it's a stolen base because they got to intentionally walk him to get to Mookie Betts of all people to want to have to try to pitch around Shohei. I think he just makes enough plays to eke out a win. It's going to be by like 1 run. These are not going to be any blowout games in this series. But Fiddy, you kind of brought it up here, and I want to bring this up here as a kind of a last point here for the show. In this year's World Series between both teams pits 2 of the biggest cities and media markets in the U.S. and L.A. and New York against one another. Do you think this will help draw interest to the game compared to last year with the Diamondbacks and Rangers coming from smaller areas?
Yes, because everybody knows LA and everybody knows New York, and you have the Dodgers historically being like the Brooklyn Dodgers and the battles of New York from before. So I do think that does help. I think last year's series, I know doing this show last year, TJ said diehard baseball fans will watch the World Series regardless, but I don't know how many people actually really cared about last year's series being the Rangers and the Diamondbacks because of also the time differences as well with the games. I think that also hurt. So you'd have the Yankees playing an Eastern time zone. And so I think that'll help as well. And I think the media markets will drive it just because of advertising. I don't think the Rangers or the Diamondbacks could do that, especially the Rangers, like in Arlington, not being one of the more well-known cities in Texas. So I do think the media will drive it, but I think the names of the teams will drive it even more.
Okay. Bill, what about you?
Honestly, Fiddy took the words out of my mouth. I think it's inevitable. If you look at the ratings, I'd be absolutely shocked if it's not much, much better this year than last year. I will say in general with baseball, I do think the kind of crowd's coming back a little bit, even attendance-wise across baseball and stuff. So just want to throw that in. I feel like baseball is, I don't want to say on a downturn, but on a bit of a downturn there for a little bit. And some of the new rules coming back has definitely brought back a little bit more of the viewership and even attendance in the game. So in general, I love it. I love the attendance up and the viewership of it. But specifically for the series, definitely going to draw in. You have the big cities, and like Fiddy said, the big names. Everyone wants to see Ohtani, Judge, Soto, Mookie, and obviously go on down the list. So I think everyone's, you're getting a lot more viewership, a lot more people that care, and even maybe some haters in there. I think when you get the big teams like the Yankees and Dodgers, you get guys like me that are going to be chiming in from Guardians fans, Pittsburgh Pirates fans that are looking in and just kind of checking out, hoping to see one of the Giants go down, as they obviously will here. But definitely viewership up in this one.
Yeah, that's solid points there. It's I hated it during the beginning of the season, but I think the pitch clock helped with viewership. Games are a little bit quicker. Baseball games, going to a game seemed like a marathon. It's an all-day event. Getting to the stadium, parking, then you got a sometimes 4 or 5 hour game, depending, with no pitch clock. Not the guys taking their time, fixing their gloves 35 times before they step back in the batter's box. Speeding up the game, I'll be the first to say I was the loudest bitcher about that pitch clock and how it was going to ruin baseball, and I was wrong. Okay, yeah, sue me. I was wrong. But TJ, what about you with these two big markets?
Looking at even just the commercials going through the playoffs, I was watching on TNT. You shouldn't have once in a generation twice. And they have a commercial specifically for Shohei Ohtani and Aaron Judge. This was the beginning of the playoffs. So they literally have billions of dollars of players on the field right now, and they're going to make it all back in this World Series. So you have LA, New York, populated like crazy. You're going to see the people that are attending these games just to be there, right? You're going to have stars upon famous people, upon whoever's name is going to be in the crowd. That's going to drive it. And then just the fact that these are the two top teams in the league on paper, and they made it. This is a heavyweight fight that you have to see. So I know that I posted, like, the people that are cheering for LA are in California, the people that are cheering for New York are in New York. Everybody else is like, well, maybe a meteor will hit and then we'll skip this World Series. But regardless, I told you, like, diehard baseball fans, well, we've gotten past that, because now I just got to see what happens. Why does everybody keep shoving it down my throat that these are the best players that have ever walked have walked the field? Well, you got to go watch the game to see it, and they will show. I mean, again, in the playoff series up to this point, every big time player has shown up at some point or another. So it's really gonna spread, and these are great times to get kids involved, get kids to watch these games, and just say, hey, this could be you one day. You could have that $700 million contract. You could be the next guy that's on the front of the video game. You could be that next guy in that commercial. So I think that they're really going to do a great job of advertising and getting some people's eyes on this.
Yeah, absolutely. Great points. Tony, round us out here.
I will agree with what TJ said. You got two big media markets. You've got some very popular players. We would have had a media market regardless out of the NL, because if not the Dodgers, you would have had the Mets. So you would have had the Subway Series for the first time since 2000. So either it was going to be New York, or it was going to be New York, LA. So either way, you were getting a big market. But I will say that the ratings are going to be higher than they were for last year. Got some really great players on both sides. which means you're going to have some really great games. And both teams have had outstanding traditions, even dating back to the days when they were both in New York. You had the Brooklyn Dodgers and the New York Yankees going at it in the 40s and 50s. I think that this will probably it'll be a ratings hit for the media.
Yeah, I don't think it could have went wrong. I think it would have been pretty dope to have the Subway Series as the World Series. You know, never leaving New York. You know what the weather's going to be. Can't have that. Can't play that as a factor. Blame time zones. You know, fans all over the place there. But it's just the Mets find a way to break everybody's hearts there in New York. I go back to this, and it's probably, and yeah, I'm gonna date myself here a little bit. One of my wife and I's favorite Friends quotes, and that when Joey just turns and goes, "Hey, Mets suck," and it's what Met? No, they all suck. It's just because he's a diehard Yankees fan. So we say it to each other probably just out of nowhere. But I would have loved to see the Mets, make it there. But kudos to both these teams. But that is actually going to do it here for this week's episode of the Ride Home Rants podcast. I want to thank my guests here tonight, Tony, Fiddy, TJ, and Bill for coming on. I can't wait to see what happens in this World Series and who will take the crown for the real ones that count, not COVID fake championships here for everybody there. But as always, if you enjoyed the show, be a friend, tell a friend. If you didn't, tell them anyways. They might like it just because you didn't. That's going to do it for me, and I will see y'all next week.
The Ride Home Rants podcast is brought to you by W Energy. Energy drinks made for gamers, streamers, and podcasters alike. For gamers, streamers, and podcasters alike. Go to the link in the description where you can find the best energy drinks out there. Less caffeine than a cup of coffee. Also, no jitters and no crash afterwards. Use the promo code Mike Bono and get yourself 10% off. Also, the Ride Home Rants podcast is brought to you by my favorite sponsor of the show, and that is Shankit Golf. Golf apparel made for the everyday golfer. We might not go out and shoot a 6 under par. We're probably going to shoot a 6 over par, but this is going to give us the gear that's going to help us rocket on and off of the course. Go to the link in the bio, use the promo code Mike Bono, and get yourself 10% off there as well.